Hey! Welcome back to the games I played this summer, the sequel to my not particularly popular but not clearly disliked video from a year ago, where I give non-binding reviews of all the games I played this past summer. Maybe this is turning into an annual series. I don't know, ask me again in a year. And before you say anything, yes, I know I'm completely betraying my last video by using the word game, but it's the world we live in, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, this time around, I'm gonna go more rapid fire, since last year's was a bit bloated if we're being honest with each other. But I'm also imitating last year by keeping a list of games I played in the description, with timecodes if you want to skip to hear my thoughts on a particular one. And remember, this is totally spoiler free. You can watch this whole thing without having played or even heard of any of these games, and honestly you should. There's some good recommendations in here. So let's go. Portal Reloaded. I started off the summer not with a game, but with a mod for the critically acclaimed puzzle game Portal 2. Some touted it as being like a fan-made Portal 3. It's not that, at all, but it's pretty good on the whole. All the marketing is about the third portal, which allows you to travel in time. In practice though, they could have just called this the portal to the mirror universe or something, because there's nothing quintessentially time travel about it, and the rules are totally arbitrary. There's no good reason you can bring a cube from the future into the present, but not bring one from the present into the future. You just roll with it though. There's not much in the way of a plot, but the mechanic is mostly interesting enough to draw you in for the runtime of about 5 to 6 hours, in my case at least. And there's a surprising amount of mileage they get out of the third portal, even if you'll often find yourself at the exit of a test chamber wondering how you even completed it, and even if you start to notice the wall the developers hit in the last couple levels in terms of doing interesting things with it. It's free, it's impressive for a mod, I say check it out, and if you're not into it by the 2-hour mark, just drop it. Mr. Shifty. Mr. Shifty is a game I've had my eye on since at least a few months before it came out in 2017, but I just got around to it now. It's a top-down, beat-em-up type adventure game, with the twist being that you can shift through walls, basically meaning you can teleport a few feet in front of you. It took me less than 4 hours to finish, and it's relatively entertaining, although the gimmick feels like it's already struggling to carry a game of that length. And the last few levels are extremely frustrating, so I was relieved to be done with it at the end. The combat feels pretty good, although the trip mine should have been introduced way earlier because the fun factor increases dramatically whenever they're in a level. It feels like a minor spin on old formulas, and that's simultaneously all it needs to be and all it can do for 4 hours. Spelunky. I've been playing this one on and off for several months now. It's a procedurally generated roguelike 2D platformer designed around replayability. It was one of the first big with a capital B indie games. It's quite difficult, but it allows you to restart with a single button press, and it's honestly very addictive. It's a good game to play while listening to podcasts or YouTube videos. There's not a whole lot to say really. It's a good, solid platformer that keeps each playthrough relatively fresh and interesting. I've put it down since I got to the regular ending, but I'll probably pick it up again eventually to try for the secret one. Gone Home. I'm not really sure how to say this, because my experience with Gone Home basically hinged on the fact that I knew very little about it other than walking sim in a spooky house that I think people said good things about. But, screw it. Gone Home is amazing. Just amazing. At every turn, it consistently surprised me and surpassed my expectations. At its heart, it's such a simple game. You walk around a house and inspect objects, notes, and letters strewn throughout. Occasionally, you hear a bit of narration. That's basically it. Even in top-notch, narrative-driven first-person games like Half-Life 2 or System Shock 2, there's an unavoidable level of dichotomy between its gamey elements like shooting or RPG upgrading, and its narrative and storytelling. Even when your overall actions or the environment you're in give details about the story, a la Half-Life 2, there's still a clear distinction between the active gameplay elements at any given time, whether that be combat, puzzles, or narrative. Gone Home solves the issue by cutting out everything besides pure storytelling. The gameplay is narrative archaeology. Every moment the player engages with the game is a moment they learn about the story. And it's a wonderful story, full of clever misdirections and things rarely seen in games, even in the 8 years since its release. It captures the mundane in a way that the vast majority of games simply aren't interested in, and it feels all the more refreshing for it. I've genuinely never empathized with video game characters stronger than I have in this game. The writing and voice acting are incredibly strong. You know what? Game of the Summer Award. Didn't know we were doing that, but I guess we are now. Can't wait to see what it is next summer. The Unfinished Swan. It was so good it motivated me to make a video about it in 3 days, which is probably the shortest time from inception to upload I've ever had on this channel, so that should probably tell you something. I know I said Gone Home was unlike any other game I've played, But the Unfinished Swan is not only unlike any other game I've played, but 9 years after its initial release, appears to have had essentially no influence on other games. So it basically exists in its own niche little bubble, and I kinda love that. If I do have a qualm with it, is that the main mechanic in each chapter is slightly less interesting than the last. The third chapter almost seems like a crisis of confidence on the part of the designers, but thematically it works, and visually it's still impressive, and then the ending sequence just makes you forget about that discrepancy. Play it. It's only a few hours long, but it's a few hours that you will never forget. Clustertruck. Clustertruck is a pretty simple game. There's a lot of trucks, you run and jump on them, you get to the end, you win. Rinse and repeat for about 2 hours and you run out of new levels to play. It won't blow your mind, but it's mindlessly entertaining for a bit. Florence. This was originally a phone game, but it came to PC a while later. It's basically an interactive comic strip about a woman who meets a man, and it lasts about 30 to 40 minutes. Pretty standard issue stuff, but the way it's presented in interactive form is consistently clever and engaging. There was one moment that genuinely made my jaw drop with how effective it was at using its interactivity to pull at my heartstrings. It conveys both character and plot details in such a way that makes a very commonplace story feel fresh, and there just aren't that many video games that are actually about falling in love. Off-Peak. This game is free on Steam and takes roughly half an hour to finish. It's incredibly surreal and has wonderfully ethereal music. There's very little I can show without just spoiling the experience, so if trippy, weird, short games that leave you with an incomprehensible sense of meaning appeal to you, just go play it. Dear Esther. Dear Esther is, like Gone Home, a staple of the walking simulator genre. I've heard it mentioned a lot over the years, but I was unaware of its perceived quality, so I figured I'd check it out. Now, the first time I played Dear Esther, it took about an hour and I just did not get it. It looked very beautiful and it seemed like it was probably profound, but I did not understand a single thing about the story. Almost everything the narrator said washed over me and didn't make a lick of sense. So I watched a video or two and read some articles about it and slept on it. The next day I decided to play it again. Now, having played it a second time, I really admire Dear Esther. It's not particularly pleasant or enjoyable to play, even though, as I said, it's very nice to look at, but the story is quite affecting once you have some context for it, and the writing is poetic, if somewhat impenetrable at times, and the music is utterly amazing. It's a worthwhile experience, even if it's difficult to get a read on it. Tacoma. I know I made a whole video tearing it apart, but the truth is that I genuinely like Tacoma. I think it is a good game, perhaps even a very good game, that does a lot of things that I like and wish other games would do. It's just when it gets so close to greatness and fails to close that gap and actually be amazing, it frustrates me. It also doesn't help that Gone Home, Fulbright's debut game, triumphs on so many levels as to make the disappointment of their follow-up almost inevitable. Puzzle Agent. This is a fun little game from Telltale's earlier years, aka before The Walking Dead. It's basically a rudimentary point-and-click adventure game about solving the mystery of a closed factory in a small snowy town with puzzles to break up the gameplay sections. I found a couple of the puzzles baffling, but thankfully there's a hint system, and most of the puzzles are quite fun without being so straightforward as to bore you. The best thing about it, by far, is the absurdism. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you like stuff that is deliberately very ridiculous and often hilarious, then you'll enjoy this. 80 Days. I used to play this on my iPad all the time when I was younger, and I picked it up on Steam recently to give it another spin. It's a really interesting sort of text-based adventure game inspired by the novel Around the World in 80 Days. I only played through it once this summer, but managed to get all the way around the globe in 79 days, although it was about 3 hours in the real world. My memory tells me that it definitely rewards multiple replays, as traveling on different routes gives you entirely new experiences. The writing, which holds it all together, is really imaginative and compelling, conjuring up alluring images of its steampunk renditions of various famous cities, and instigating memorable mini-stories along the way. And the strategy and time management aspects allow this premise to be adapted very well into the interactive medium. And that brings us to the end of the summer. I didn't get to as many games as I did last summer, and none of them were particularly lengthy ones, but I'd say it was still a good showing. As always, I'd love to discuss these games further in the comments, and I'll also take any criticisms, compliments, or suggestions. If you'd like to see what games I play next summer, then consider subscribing. But I appreciate your attention, so thank you for watching.